The number is 303. 303 participants. Even Jenny couldn't have imagined this, but it's an amazing achievement. So hats off to all our friends and fellows from the Kyrgyz Republic. An amazing achievement. And what a pity, how sad it is that our co-founder, Donald Rumsfeld, isn't with us to see this amazing room and this amazing ensemble of people. We miss him. Ladies and gentlemen, all of us are here focused on the present. We get up in the morning, we follow the news in the evening, and then the next morning, we're absolutely fixated on our present moment. But I want to ask you, please, for the next couple of minutes, to think not of the present moment, but about the future. And I want you to consider all the possible futures, including some that may not be obvious to you or to others. Because what we think or assume about the future ends up affecting our actions today, except we rarely articulate our assumptions about the future. So in the name of honesty and full disclosure, let me offer mine. Maybe they're silly or wrong, but they're what I'm thinking at the moment. And I offer them not as any great truth, but as a challenge to you to think through, during the course of this conference, what you are assuming about the future and how that affects your plans in the present. So, I'm assuming that we're going to have, in 3 to 5 years, a dramatically different world than today. Dramatically different. And this is, in turn, going to fundamentally and overall positively impact CAMCA countries. Let me just review very quickly. Russia. Well, my assumption is that when Ukraine seriously attacks Crimea, within 5 or 6 months of that, Mr. Putin will be out of office. I think we're near the end of his time, and he is going to leave behind a militarized economy, therefore very inefficient, slow to recover. He'll leave behind the loss of 1.5 million young men. Imagine, 1.5 million. Not to mention the million or so others who have departed, men and women, talented, many of them very well educated. And this will be the end of the imperial fantasies that dominated Russian thinking even after 1991, down to the present. And it will lead to a very slow recovery. Now, China, well, 3 to 5 years, it seems to me likely that it will still be making a serious effort to strangle Taiwan. Not necessarily outright invasion, but it will be threatening the Philippines still, and it will show considerable strength in the short term. But Taiwan will have strengthened its defenses. Japan and Korea will be much more engaged in the region than they are today. And within China itself, you'll see developmental problems increasing, partly driven by demographic realities, which are unavoidable and increasingly deepen. Now, with regard to the rest of Asia, Korea, Japan, Australia, they'll be linking arms much more closely in the future than they are today. The United States, meanwhile, there will be still serious divisions, especially within the Republican Party, but I'm confident that there will emerge a consensus on some of the main foreign policy issues between the two parties, or at least dominant factions within the two parties. So let me then say a word about Europe. Will be defensive. Its posture will be defensive in the coming period, and defensive with regard to the economy, and defensive with regard to cultural matters. They will be pushing their allies and friends to become engaged in that process, but there will be a military expansion in Europe, and that will go forward. India rarely gets mentioned in these contexts, but it should be. It is the fastest growing large economy in the world today. It's bound in the next 3 to 5 years to have a much deeper impact everywhere, and especially here in this region. So the Middle East, also very relevant. It will become more than it is today, a funder of activities within the CAMCA region. Now, finally, if I can say a word about Afghanistan. The Taliban will continue to dominate the country in 3 to 5 years, but they will understand that if they don't make some kind of rational concession with regard to women, they will not get the recognition they seek, and a lot of the funding that they desperately and increasingly desperately need will be impossible. So I expect some kind of a moderate breakthrough on that, which will in turn, after they make moderate concessions on the issue of women, lead to recognition in many quarters, and it will bring money from the Middle East. Also, you will see the TAPI pipeline built. You will see the CASA 1000 from Kyrgyzstan sending electricity to Pakistan via Afghanistan, and you'll see the railroad and the east-west connections all opening up. Now, what does this mean for the CAMCA countries, the core CAMCA countries? It seems to me that the impending crisis in Russia and mounting problems in China create an opening for all of Central Asia and the Caucasus and the CAMCA countries. But this won't happen if they seek to exploit it individually. Only if they link arms will they exploit positively the benefits that could come from this emerging situation. They will, in the next 3 to 5 years, start creating institutions, analogous to ASEAN in some ways. There will be structures. Security chiefs are already meeting, beginning in this year, across the region. And at Cholpan Ata 2 years ago, thanks to the initiative of the president of the Kyrgyz Republic, they identified 23 areas where cooperation and institutional structures are needed, and these will be advanced in the coming period. And during this period, 3 to 5 years, you will see common tourist visas for the region. You will see common business visas for the region. You'll see the transportation corridors opening, as I've mentioned. And you will also see the growth of region-wide information networks, news networks. First step in that direction has just been taken by the new owners of the Times of Central Asia, who are now issuing it in 5 languages. And by the way, Central Asia itself will have expanded definitely to include Azerbaijan. And there will be a further expansion of this region in the coming period, and that will include eventually the addition of Georgia and Armenia, and eventually, after that, Mongolia possibly, and who knows, maybe even Afghanistan. Is this vision too optimistic? You may be shaking your heads and wondering. Maybe so. So present your own views, but be conscious of what you're assuming about the future, and be conscious of how your assumptions about the future affect how you analyze events in the present. So let me just remind you, if this sounds too rosy and too optimistic, that when we met here in Bishkek for the first assembly of CAMCA fellows and Rumsfeld fellows. Who would have imagined that we would be here today as we are? So if we couldn't have imagined this then, maybe we should ask ourselves, maybe we have deficient imagination as we address the future today. Thank you.
On behalf of the Rumsfeld Foundation and our co-organizers, welcome to the 2024 CAMCA Regional Forum. We're delighted to have you here with us and are really looking forward to the important conversations to come. As Fred mentioned, throughout the next 2 days, more than 300 individuals representing more than 25 countries will be participating in these forum events. We have a full day of terrific discussions to get to, but before we dive into the discussions, I did want to take just a few moments to share a bit about the backstory of this forum and what brings all of us here together today. More than a decade ago, in 2013, a number of today's attendees were gathered at Lake Issyk-Kul for the second ever reunion of the alumni of the Rumsfeld Fellowship Program, which had been launched in 2008 through the partnership of the Rumsfeld Foundation and the Central Asia-Caucasus Institute, led and of course inspired by Dr. Fred Starr, whom we just heard from, and Secretary Rumsfeld. At that time, the program had hosted 10 fellowship groups of rising leaders from the region in Washington, D.C., and more than 40 alumni from all 10 CAMCA countries gathered at Lake Issyk-Kul that June to build connections and to discuss avenues for collaboration. In addition to sessions on important topics of the day, we had a group brainstorming session to discuss what was next, where do we go from here, what might come of these regional relationships that are developing through this initiative. The key takeaways from that discussion are as follows. 1, we need an inclusive word to describe this region and the collection of people that we've brought together, spanning Central Asia, Mongolia, the Caucasus, and Afghanistan. As you might have guessed, that is how the term CAMCA came to life. 2, a platform doesn't exist for people of this region to get together and have discussions on important opportunities to improve cooperation for the betterment of the region as a whole. And 3, the regional leaders that have participated in the fellowship program have unique and important insights on developments across sectors in their countries. This collection of talent and knowledge is distinct and it is valuable. It would be beneficial to open access to this network and their discussions to other participants and stakeholders, both from the region and beyond. And with that Cliff Notes context, the concept of the CAMCA Regional Forum was born right here in the Kyrgyz Republic more than a decade ago. Fast forward to today, now 10 years later, and the CAMCA Forum has featured more than 420 speakers and welcomed over 1,400 participants, representing over 33 countries and 300 companies across the globe. We have gathered across the region in Kazakhstan, Mongolia, Georgia, Tajikistan, Azerbaijan, Uzbekistan, and even Washington, D.C. And this year, we are truly delighted to be back where the seeds of this forum were originally planted, in the Kyrgyz Republic. Additionally, the CAMCA Network, the official alumni group of our fellowship program, now includes more than 280 members, all making important contributions to their countries and the region as a whole. All that to say, it has been an exciting and productive 10 years of this forum's development, and we are eager to see what the future holds as we continue to grow this CAMCA community in the years to come. Now, 2 final things I wanted to touch on as we move into the day's discussions. In the years that we have gathered since Secretary Rumsfeld passed, his memory is always very present in my mind as these convenings come together, thinking about what he would be saying to you all were he to be here with us, and what his thoughts would be on how this forum has developed over the years. I remember in 2015 at our forum in Mongolia, we were at a dinner out at a beautiful national park after the sessions had concluded, and as everyone was enjoying one another's company, after a great couple of days, Secretary Rumsfeld made some impromptu remarks. He spoke about the concept of ripple effects, and that it was imperative that we all should be conscious of the ripple effects that our actions, or sometimes the lack thereof, have on those around us, our communities, our countries, and even the world. He thought a lot about how this was true for individuals, for governments, for businesses, for leaders in every sphere and at every level. And he believed that we all had a responsibility to take that seriously. And being particularly optimistic about the leadership roles that our fellowship participants would be taking on in the years to come, he wanted to make sure that they were thinking about the ripple effects that their current and future actions would have on the development of this important region, confident that they would have a real impact on its trajectory. As we've been preparing for this year's forum, his words and their sentiment have consistently been coming to mind. And I think were he here with us in Bishkek, first and foremost, he would be so delighted to see all of the talent, intellect, and creativity in this room coming together to discuss CAMCA's way forward. And second, I think his mind would be brimming with the thoughts of all of the potential ripple effects of this gathering and these conversations, and what they could mean for CAMCA's way forward and the future of this region. So as we engage in all of the interesting discussions and events over the next 2 days, as he would want, I hope that everyone will think about the ripple effects, the consequences, and the next steps from what occurs here among us. Let's make our CAMCA ripple effects positive and meaningful and lasting. And finally, we want to be sure to recognize and thank our local partners and hosts. We are grateful to the Kyrgyz government for their involvement and gracious hospitality. And we are also incredibly appreciative of our Kyrgyz fellows, led by Chair of the CAMCA Network, Jenish, you'll be hearing from in just a bit. Jenish and the entire team have truly gone above and beyond to make this forum as impactful, productive, interesting, and enjoyable as possible. And we thank them so much for all of their dedicated efforts that have gone into making this all happen. With that, thank you again for being here. We will now hear some virtual welcoming words from a longtime friend of our CAMCA community, U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for South and Central Asia, Donald Liu. Thank you.
Deputy Prime Minister Baisalov, Dr. Starr, Ms. Tonucci, Ms. Kekenadze, Ms. Jenish kyzy. Dear colleagues, welcome to Bishkek. My family and I spent 6 happy years in the Kyrgyz Republic, and I cannot imagine anywhere better to hold this CAMCA Regional Forum. Bishkek is at the crossroads of the Great Silk Road, and we continue to see signs today of that ancient trade route. When I lived in Kyrgyzstan, I loved going down to the Dordoi Bazaar to see the crazy array of exotic clothing, electronics, cookware, and foods from all corners of the globe. Bishkek is also the crossroads of culture. In the Grand Hyatt Hotel, it's easy to run into traders and business people from Turkey, Russia, China, Europe, and even America. I'm glad that you have come together in this interesting part of the world to figure out how to build ties across the South Caspian, Central Asia, Afghanistan, and Mongolia to make this a more prosperous and secure region. I have the opportunity to work on both Central Asia and Afghanistan in my current job. I wanted to mention some of the important initiatives we have launched in the region to promote economic growth, but also the sovereignty and independence of Central Asia. First, in 2022, we launched ARASEN, the Economic Resilience Initiative for Central Asia, which seeks to provide program funds, currently $50 million and growing, to support job training, to help Central Asians learn skills that will enable them to have good, well-paying jobs right here in their own home countries. It also supports attracting sustainable investment and the promotion of English language development. Second, in 2023, President Biden met with the 5 Central Asian presidents and issued the landmark C5+1 New York Declaration, which affirms our shared commitment to security, economic, and energy partnership. Third, this year we held the inaugural B5+1 Forum, marking a new era for public-private sector dialogue that will enhance U.S. Central Asia economic partnership. And finally, for the past 3 years, I have had the pleasure of welcoming Rumsfeld Fellows to the State Department. Each time I have found them full of interesting questions and willing to challenge the conventional wisdom here in the United States as well as in their own countries. It is in that spirit of open discussion that I hope will infect your dialogue in this forum. Thank you so much for inviting me to join you today.
We thank Assistant Secretary Liu for those kind words, and I would now like to introduce Jenish Kyzy.
Саламатсыздарбы, урматтуу айымдар жана мырзалар, CAMCA регионалдык форумга кош келиңиздер. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to CAMCA Regional Forum 2024. It is a warm welcome to you to our regional forum, and we are extremely honored to host this significant event. But little did people know, actually, back in 2013, a group of young fellow friends, along with our Dr. Frederick Starr and Donor Rumsfeld, they visited Kyrgyzstan to simply rest in Bishkek and in Yusukul. The beauty of the land and the inspiration of Kyrgyz land has sparked such a desire in them to continue their dialogues. They want to meet more often and to talk about this regional partnership. So the idea of having this annual gathering, this CAMCA Regional Forum, was born here. Since the following years, the first forum was hosted in Astana, Kazakhstan. And continually since then, every country among CAMCA regions, they hosted this forum. Kyrgyzstan has never been documented until now as a host country. That is why, together with our Kyrgyz fellow, we are extremely excited and honored. I can say we can officially welcome you to Bishkek, but I would say, CAMCA Regional Forum, welcome home. 2024, it's also marked a significant year for our CAMCA network because we also celebrate the 10th anniversary of the CAMCA Regional Forum. I think this is a great, unique opportunity for us to reflect what has been done in the past 10 years, our achievements, and to look forward to the next 10 years, how we can looking forward in such an unpredictable world. But why Kyrgyzstan? Well, in addition, as I already told this little story behind the CAMCA Regional Forum, it's not only just as a land of the inspiration for CAMCA network. Kyrgyzstan also, we would like to position ourselves as a great facilitators of regional players. People say we are a landlocked country. No, we are a land-linked country. We linked different kind of countries, regional partners to come together. We can bring even those countries with the most conflicts to the table. And I'm really proud to say in CAMCA 2024, at this 10 years of anniversaries, we worked so hard to bring all 10 CAMCA countries together to this table. As the head of the organizing team at CAMCA Forum, we worked very hard in the past 5 months to engage different partners, including our government partners, businesses, communities. And I would really love to, from the official organization's name, to express a great appreciation to a strong support of the Kyrgyz government. We have successfully engaged 7 government parties, thanks to the President administration of the Kyrgyz Republic, thanks to the Cabinet of Ministers of the Kyrgyz Republic. Thank you, Ministry of Foreign Affairs, thanks Ministry of Digital Development, thanks to Ministry of Economic and Commerce, Ministry of Education and Science. Also, thank you, the Parliament, Jogorku Kengesh of the Kyrgyz Republic. 7 government organizations, organs, they strongly supported to make this our forum happens. But moreover, you will see actually this representative of this government organs, they will also be as speakers. In this 2 days forum, we have more than 70 speakers to come together. And you know what? Till yesterday's registration list, 303 participants representing 25 countries gathered in Bishkek. So we can say we have gone beyond CAMCA region. This is a truly international standard. We are very proud to bring such a diversity of international representatives to Bishkek. And of course, people say this is just 2-day forum, but I do remind you to read the program carefully because we also wanted to engage you in a different networking opportunities. There are so many side events. Like yesterday, at the American University of Central Asia, we had a CAMCA education conference. And we also welcome our delegate from the ASEAN region. They came here. They expressed their interest to signing the MOU already with the Investment Council under the cabinet of the ministers. And we had a warm welcome reception, if you remember yesterday's. Yes? Today, we continue. After the forum, we at the Novotel Hotel, there will be a book presentation of Dr. Frederick Starr. Also, thank you our Kazakh partners who came so far. They wanted to organize such a side event. And tomorrow evening, don't leave us because we're gonna still have farewell dinner. And there are also some group of people continue with us going to Issyk Lake. Look, this is a serial of different kind of activities. It's more than just a 2 days CAMCA forum. Whatever we've been doing so hard, of course, we are talking about economic development, social development, but at the bottom of the line, what we really want is to strengthen this people-to-people connection. So we hope in these 2 days, you can get the best experience of the Kyrgyzstan and to leave the most beautiful memories of our land. Thank you so much. On behalf of Kyrgyz Fellow, welcome everyone.